I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could stand for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the
To welcome everyone to the October meeting of the District 94 Board of Education. Mission statement, please.
Community High School strives to promote and provide growth experiences in learning, leadership, and living.
Thank you, Rich. Board agreement number 2, please.
Yes, our board agreement number 2 is concerns from the community and staff. A, board members will listen carefully, remembering they are only hearing one side of the story. B, board members will then direct that person to the person in the district most appropriate, following chain of command, who is able to help them resolve their concern. Board members handling concerns in this manner will clarify that one board member has no individual authority to fix a problem. Board members will call the superintendent if they think there is an issue of concern.
Thank you, Lynn.
You're welcome.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Ms. Casey Meir.
Here.
Ms. Doremus.
Present via phone due to health concerns.
Ms. Munoz.
Present.
Mr. Nagel.
Present.
Mr. Sake.
Present by phone due to health considerations.
Mr. Zuniga.
here.
Okay, that brings us to public hearing on a renewal of a previously approved driver's education simulator waiver. Overview of the waiver.
Good evening. Wanted to provide the board with an overview of the waiver that we are using for the use of driver's education simulators. The school has been using simulators in the driver's education program for decades under the state-approved waiver. The use of driving simulators in lieu of being behind the wheel driving time in our driver's education program has allowed us to accommodate double the amount of students in our program. The waiver is only for 5 years and must be renewed if the district continues to use simulators, and there is no limit as to the number of times that a district submits for the waiver. The district is in its 5th year, which is the final year of its waiver, and is therefore resubmitting it to the state for renewal. Part of the renewal process includes a public hearing and board action, which are taking place tonight. The use of simulators not only allows us to double the number of students we can accommodate in our driver's education program, but it also allows students to participate in a variety of emergency driving scenarios in a controlled and safe environment that are not doable when behind the wheel of a car. If approved by the state, this waiver will begin with the 23-24 school year and end at the conclusion of the 27-28 school year. And with that, I would entertain any questions that the board may have about that.
Hearing no questions from the board, is there any public comment on the waiver we just discussed? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing on the waiver?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. The recommended motion that the Board of Education approve the requested waiver on 105 ILCS 5/27-24.3 and authorize the superintendent to submit the request to the Regional Office of Education and to the Illinois State Board of Education as presented and made a part thereof.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Doremus.
Aye.
Ms. Munoz.
Aye.
Mr. Nagel.
Aye.
Mr. Sake.
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Casey Meir.
Aye.
Okay, that moves us to our second public hearing, this one on the proposed adoption of an e-learning program.
Okay, I'd like to provide the board with an overview of the e-learning program. The district has been using the e-learning program in lieu of emergency days for the past 6 years. As a reminder, an e-learning program is different from the remote learning program that was used specifically during the pandemic. The use of an e-learning program is to use an e-learning day in place of a typical emergency day, such as a snow day or a cold day. District 94 was one of the first districts in the area to adopt a one-to-one technology program. Dr. Don Maracki, along with Superintendents Dr. Nick Poliak from Leiden and Dr. Colleen Packett from Gurnee Elementary District 56, together authored legislation that allowed all districts to adopt an e-learning program, which is renewed every 3 years through the Regional Office of Education. District 94 started its one-to-one program with the 2015-2016 school year and is in now its 8th year, and the use of Chromebooks is now an integral part of the school culture. Part of the e-learning renewal process includes a public hearing and board action, which are taking place tonight. And if the e-learning program is approved by the Regional Office of Education, its use in lieu of emergency days will begin with this school year and expire at the end of the 24-25 school year. And with that, I'll entertain any questions the board may have.
Is there a limit to how many days in a row e-learning can be done?
In a row? No. But there are, since they're used in lieu of the emergency days, the school has 5 emergency days to use that are built in the calendar.
So after that, what happens?
And we need to talk to the Regional Office of Education and discuss how we would use that. It could be an act of God day. There are other provisions within the calendar to accommodate for that.
So just to clarify, in the packet, it talks about different like subjects. Like, is that like kind of like the curriculum that the teachers would run through when doing that, or so like you have like the Chicano movement, the like specific details in the packet. So is that just like different examples of curriculum through?
Yeah, that one specifically is just an example of how a lesson was taken that's taught in the classroom and modified for an e-learning day so that they can use it remotely.
Okay.
Oh.
That
So
makes
that's not
sense.
necessarily the exact curriculum, but that's an example of how it would be adapted.
Correct.
Oh, good question, yeah.
Any other board questions at this point? All right, is there any public comment on the proposed e-learning program? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn the public hearing portion of the meeting?
Okay.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. The recommended motion that the Board of Education approve the adoption of and resolution for the e-learning program as presented at the public hearing conducted on October 18th, 2022.
Okay.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nagel.
Aye.
Mr. Sake.
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer.
Aye.
Ms. DeRamus.
Aye.
Ms. Munoz.
Aye.
And that brings us to Student of the Month.
Aiden Russo named September Student of the Month 2022-2023. West Chicago Community High School in Community High School District 94 has selected Aiden Russo of Winfield as Student of the Month for September 2022. Aiden was selected because he is a model student and exemplifies the core values of West Chicago community: learning, living, leading. A senior, Aiden has been on the high honor roll every semester of his high school career, earning a cumulative weighted grade point average of 5.571. He is an AP Honor Scholar with distinction, a member of the National Honor Society and Foreign Language Honor Society. Aiden has been involved in freshman soccer, captain, basketball, captain, senior golf, captain, Wildcat Athletics leadership team, and serves as a pep club member, student ambassador, and Roar mentor. Outside of school, Aiden holds a part-time job at Cantini Golf, mentoring young golfers, organizing events, and providing excellent service. He also volunteers at PADS, making beds and packing lunches, prepares meals with friends at Ronald McDonald House, and helped his team set a packing record at Feed My Starving Children. When asked about his favorite high school memory, Aiden recalls the Weagle football comeback during his junior year. Being down big at halftime and then fighting back hard to win by a large margin really felt like symbolism of high school. You can either get down when things aren't going your way, or you can push through and have fun, ultimately leading to great things. Aiden has this advice for future Wildcats. I think future West Chicago Community High School students should just learn to fully be themselves. Once you finally accept who you are and don't care what others think, I believe that's when my high school experience was maximized and I was having the most fun. The worst feeling in the world is acting like someone else just to fit in. So if you can get past that, there will be no bar for your success. After graduation, Aiden plans to attend college to study business finance. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Aiden. That brings us to public participation. This is the portion of our meeting where any member of the public can address the Board of Education on any topic. We welcome your comments and will carefully listen to your concerns. We will not be able to engage in a dialogue during public participation, but when appropriate, we will direct the administration to follow up. Presentations are limited to no more than 5 minutes per person, with a total time limit of 30 minutes for public participation. Personal charges or complaints against individual employees, volunteers, or students of the district should not be initiated during public comment. And the first public comment is in person. That would be Dave Hempy.
It's pretty hard to follow that last presentation. I'll try to do the best I can. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to recognize and thank the National Honor Society here at West Chicago High School. The reason I bring that up is that there was a need for a group from Milton Township, a CERT group, which is the Community Emergency Response Team. We had been through 8 weeks of training, and there was a mock disaster drill that we had to graduate from, and we needed what they call them survivors. So Alicia Wolf, who's on the District 34 school board, she recommended that we reach out to Leslie Fireman here at the high school to see if any of the National Honor Society students would volunteer. And we got 20 volunteers, and they acted out like they were in drama club. Maybe some of them were, but they were incredible. They had everything from amputations to gashes in their head. They were it was a mock. The disaster was held over here by the airport at a fireman's training center, and it was a simulated explosion from 2 tanker cars that had derailed. But anyway, we tried to save as many as we could, and unfortunately, I think we left a couple behind. Thank God it was a mock disaster. There also is, in moving forward, the CERT team is going to be doing another one in West Chicago next year. It'll be an actual train, not an actual train, a mock train disaster where they'll be actually using train cars, and they'll be looking for volunteers for that also. But I just wanted to personally come out and thank the community here in West Chicago and the high school for having such excellent students and making such great volunteers for us to practice and graduate from. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you for that. It's always good to hear good things about our students helping out the community. It's wonderful to hear. All right, that's the only in-person that I have. We've got several that were submitted electronically, so we'll go through them. The first one is from Janelle Zaberna regarding school safety. Good evening, District 94 school board members. My husband and I attended the October 4th board meeting to listen to the school's security update. We were hoping to hear about some major changes to the security protocols that are already in place. However, we felt that the school's administration's plans are too soft. Our son is a sophomore at West Chicago and pointed out to us that there has been on average 1 gun a month found at his school. Can you believe that? I actually couldn't, but then went back and realized that he was unfortunately right. 1 gun last April, 1 gun last May before summer, 1 more gun in September of the new school year. And these were the guns that have been found. I shudder to think how many were not found. I know many people are against metal detectors and random searches at the school doors. However, then what? How do we keep these guns out of our school? I believe the school administration is against the use of metal detectors for one reason and one reason alone. This would cause them to admit we have a problem, and they would not like how these optics would look to the community. However, I do not care about the optics. I only care about the safety of our students. I have always defended this school and our community. I believe it has so much to offer. There are amazing teachers, fantastic curriculum, offerings, and opportunities for each student. Unfortunately, due to the administration's lack of urgency and concern for safety, we are seriously considering sending our younger child elsewhere. We do not want to leave this school. Please make some hard changes now. Thank you for your time. The next one is from Heather Naziolek regarding the Blue Point system. Hello. Can you tell us the expected date of installation? It was said that it would be installed in October. However, it's already October 18th. When is it being installed? Is it expected to be finished and in service and tested and ready to go by the end of the month? Next one is from Crystal Noland-Riani regarding security. Hello, my name is Crystal Noland-Riani. I am a parent of students within our school districts. In one of the last Board of Education meetings, it was said that we use a security company called Andy Frayne, who supplies us with security personnel for our school. In the past, like with our current SRO position, we partnered with the West Chicago Police Department. They would supply District 94 with a list of retired police officers who are more than willing to cover these positions. I am wondering, in a town and education system that strives for community, engagement, and comfortably with law enforcement, this changed. These positions are very important to our children and faculty's safety. Please reconsider. And finally, from Steve Riani, topic safety in school. After I attended last month's safety and board meeting following the gun incident, I was very upset and frankly shocked to learn that our high school is teaching our kids to not listen to certain points of authority. Security personnel have not authority in the building they are hired to secure, so the high school is paying security prices for basic hall monitors? What sense does this make? Security personnel are not to have contact with students, so who is enforcing the rules in between periods? Who is stopping the fights when they occur? Is the protocol honestly to radio to an administrator and then wait? As the principal and other teachers have reiterated, they did not go to school to be security officers. So then why are they making the security decisions? Teachers have stated that they are trying, and some of the responses from the kids leave them speechless. But teaching kids that they don't have to listen to certain authority figures makes them act out to teachers exactly in the way the teachers are complaining about. District 94 insists on passing the buck to District 33, or the parents, or the community as a whole. It is the district's power to insist on changes, but changes happen when we take some ownership and say, the buck stops here. And that concludes the public participation that has been submitted at this point. And thank you to everyone who submitted comments. That brings us to reports and information. Superintendent's report.
Good evening. A few items to share with the board tonight. The first one is with regards to FOIAs. The district received 2 FOIA requests. The first one is from Sherry Reed at Smart Procure, requesting purchasing records related to copying, scanning, and printing paper documents. The second FOIA request was from Cheryl Moore, requesting information from the September 13th BPAC meeting and the most recent meeting prior to September 13th. And the information requested includes agenda and minutes, documents, lists of those invited, bylaws, internal rules, guidelines, procedures, and processes for the election of officers for the 21-22 and 22-23 BPAC. Second item I wanted to share with the board tonight was in regards to the College of DuPage Student Success Committee. I was asked by Dr. Caputo, president at the College of DuPage, and Flo Appel, trustee at the College of DuPage, to be a member of their Student Success Committee. Their first meeting was Thursday, October 13th, and we reviewed and discussed with Provost Curtis Chavez COD's definition of student success and strategized ways to increase success for students while they are enrolled at COD. As part of that discussion, we emphasized the need for greater collaboration and alignment between high school and the College of DuPage, knowing that a successful transition directly contributes to student success. It was a good preliminary discussion, and I am hopeful that future meetings will lead to more actionable steps to minimize barriers and increase opportunities for all of our students. And then the last one is a reminder to, if you wanted to participate in the DuPage IASB dinner, it is November 2nd at 6:15 p.m. at the Carlisle in Lombard. Please let Cheryl Glunt know if you're interested by this Friday if you'd like to attend. And that concludes my report.
Thank you for that report. That brings us to Director of Business Services report.
Thank you. I have multiple items on to present tonight. The first one will be the fiscal year 2022 audit presentation from Taryn from Baker Tilly. Taryn has been auditing the district for a few years now, working her way up from staff accountant to manager. Taryn has always loved this audit, not only because Chris Olson and the rest of the staff take such good care of her, but also because of the short commute as she is a resident of West Chicago. So I'll hand it over to Taryn.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Taryn Bruce, and I am the manager on the district's financial audit. Thank you for having me here tonight to discuss the 2022 audit results, and thank you for using Baker Tilly as your auditors. This evening, I will briefly highlight the important aspects of the audit. If you have any questions regarding this information, please stop me at any time. The fiscal year 2022 audit procedures are complete, and we did issue our reports on October 7th of 2022. A small percentage of districts actually have their audits out by this time. This is attributed to the diligence of the business office team. So I would like to say special thanks to Dan and Chris and their team for their audit preparedness and very timely responses. The scope of the fiscal year 2022 audit consists of the following: the financial statements, the ISB annual financial report, or the AFR, the single audit of the district's major federal programs in accordance with uniform guidance, the consolidated year-end financial report, and the audit results letter. So all of you should have, or most of you should have, the financial statements in front of you, and I'm just going to briefly highlight a few of the statements and go through some of the more important information. So located on pages 1 through 3, we did issue an unmodified opinion over the district's financial statements. This is the highest level of assurance that can be obtained from your auditors, and it means the financial statements were fairly presented in all material respects and contain all necessary disclosures. Pages 4 through 10 contain the management's discussion and analysis. This provides financial statement readers with the story behind the numbers presented in the report. The statement of net position and the statement of activities are located on pages 11 and 12. These statements are presented on the full accrual basis of accounting and include the district's capital assets and long-term debt. Pages 15 and 18 detail the differences between these statements and the governmental fund statements presented in the report. The balance sheet is located on page 13 and 14. The district experienced positive fund balances across all funds. So this next two pages, pages 16 and 17, are kind of the focus. This is the statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balance. This is the most important schedule in our report as it shows the results of the funds throughout the year. So there are a few things I would like to point out on these two pages. Total fund balance increased almost $4.5 million from last year, and this is primarily driven from evidence-based funding increases, corporate personal property replacement tax increases, as well as property tax receipt collections. The CPPRT, or corporate personal property replacement tax, came in way higher than the previous year and was completely unexpected and not really well communicated by the state. The district did increase $1.6 million in CPPRT, which is 118% over last year. There was also a welcomed increase in evidence-based funding, which was held flat in the prior year. This increase is almost $1.2 million, which is huge. And then property taxes were actually received in advance this year, which are typically received after June 30th. They did come in before June 30th of this year. On page 16, these are going to be the operating funds. So the general fund, which consists of the ed fund and the working cash fund, had a surplus of $2.1 million. The O&M fund did have an increase of $2.4. The transportation fund did experience a decrease this year, very small decrease of $256,000, but this is due to an increase in transportation costs as you guys were back in person this year, so it was expected. And the IMRF fund revenues did approximate expenditures, which is a slight increase there. Following the basic financial statements are the notes, which provide more detail around the assets and liabilities reported in the district's financial statements. There's also budget to actuals by fund, which will show what the district budgeted, where they actually landed with revenues and expenditures. Following the financial statements, I will briefly mention one notable item from the ISB State AFR filing. The district achieved financial recognition status, which is the highest level of recognition by ISB. The district did receive a 3.9 out of a maximum score of 4. So it's very important to note as well. So next, I wanted to go over the single audit, but did anyone have any questions on any of the financial information presented? Perfect. So with this single audit, a single audit is the federal compliance audit over federal programs and is required for any entity that expends over $750,000 in federal funds in a given year. Based on the analysis of programs to be tested, the Educational Stabilization Fund and the Child Nutrition Cluster were identified for testing and audited as major this year. Under the single audit, we test to verify the district complied with rules and determine if the adequate controls are in place to ensure compliance. No reportable matters were identified and a clean opinion was received. Lastly, I will end with the audit results discussion with a few non-financial highlights from the Reporting and Insights letter, which is its own separate packet. I'm not sure if you guys have that one, but this just satisfies a few different audit standards, and it is very much boilerplate letter due to the district having no concerns, nothing to be reported. This letter addresses our responsibilities as the auditor, management's responsibilities, that there were no significant changes to the audit plan, our thoughts on any significant risk of material misstatement, which none were noted, and key areas of emphasis. We also noted no instances of noncompliance or other matters required to be reported under government auditing standards. Lastly, we are also required to communicate if there were any significant unusual transaction difficulties with management, disagreements. I'm happy to report there is nothing in the letter regarding those areas. So that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions? Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me tonight.
You.
Once again, thanks to Taryn from Baker Tilly for presenting that, and again, thanks to our staff in the business office for providing all that information to Taryn and Baker Tilly. That audit couldn't be done without the staff in the business office, so they do a great job. Also on the board agenda for tonight is a Quest contract amendment. Quest's attorneys wanted to make it abundantly clear in the contract that Quest is working as an agent of the district and thus does not have to collect or pay sales tax. This is the only reason for the amendment and why we are asking the board to approve it tonight. Dan Boyle has reviewed, and no changes or questions from him did he have. An update on Blue Point. Installation of Blue Point began last week as planned, and so far the installation is going well, and we are still expecting to have a go-live date around Thanksgiving, as noted when we approved the contract back in August. Transportation update. We continue to meet with Illinois Central as they work to improve their transportation services for our students. The routes have improved a little, but are still not meeting the expectations of the school students and families. Our next meeting with Illinois Central is tomorrow morning with the hopes that they have additional plans to improve those services. And next is going to be the 2022 tax levy presentation. Turn that on sooner. What's that say, Moses?
9046.
Thank you. Here you can see how the budget and the tax levy are connected. One cannot happen without the other in this annual process. So what is a tax levy? A tax levy is the amount of money the district requests to meet our anticipated needs, which includes salaries, benefits, maintenance, and curriculum needs. What is a tax rate? The tax rate is a calculation of the total tax levy divided by all the property owners' EAV. The tax rate is then used to determine levy dollars across all property owners. In 1991, the Illinois General Assembly passed the PTEL law, better known as the tax cap law. This initially only affected those collar counties around Cook County, but was also extended to Cook County in 1995. Since then, it has been extended to 39 of the Illinois' 102 counties. As noted here, the tax cap does not cap property tax assessments or individual tax bills. It does, however, cap the rate of increase for the government entities and allows for taxes on new property or new construction. This will be the first year in a long time that PTEL will be utilized as CPI is over 5%. As I just noted, the PTEL limits the increase from year to year to the lesser of 5% or CPI. New construction is in addition to the lesser of 5% or CPI. And as we know, CPI for December of 2021 is 7%. So we will limit that. It will be limited to 5% per PTEL. With new construction, our increase will be over 5%, and as such, a truth in taxation hearing is required. With this requirement, a notice must be published in the paper and a public hearing must be held. To calculate the levy, we need to know four things: the prior year levy extension, CPI, the current year equalized assessed value, and new property and or new construction. As you can see, we only know two of these items. In order to get the best estimates possible, I inquire with the Wayne and Winfield assessors to get estimates on new construction and the increase to EAV. I have inquired with those local assessors and received those estimates. One of the items we do know is CPI, or the Consumer Price Index. Here's a 10-year history of CPI. We use the December 2021 value for our calculations, which is noted at 7%. Even with the 7% CPI, CPI still has a 10-year average of only 2.15%. Due to PTEL not including new construction, our extension cannot be more than 5% than the prior year. As we look towards the December 2022 CPI, it is still trending to be higher than 5%. As I've noted, one of the other estimates is new construction. Winfield and Wayne Township assessors have provided estimates for the new construction. As you can see, I have that estimate at $27.8 million for this year. New construction has dramatically increased over the past few years. With the new construction at the DuPage Technology Park continuing and a new residential areas being built, I expect we will continue to see higher than normal new construction next year. One of the ways we estimate the change in EAV is to look at prior years and the trends, as well as talking with our local assessors. This chart represents the community's EAV history and its change from year to year. As you can see from the blue bars, the EAV continue to increase at a steady rate, and that the change is represented by the red dotted line, which is around 6%. According to our local assessors, we should have an average of around 4 to 5% for this year. This chart does include new properties in the EAV. Reporting fund balances or cash reserves is a newly required section of the school code when discussing the levy. These are the balances as of June 30th, 2022, as reported on our audited financial statements. The education fund is just under $16 million. Operations and maintenance fund is at $3.4 million. Transportation fund at $1.3 million. In total, our overall fund balance is just under $25 million. This chart provides the annual increase to the tax levy extensions. As you look at this chart, realize that the years start at 22 on the left and go down to the right. Recent increases are mainly due to the new construction, which accounts for around 2.5% of the increases each year. If CPI was only at 2.9% this year, we would still have to do a truth in taxation hearing, as we would be over 5% for the new construction. Now that we have a little background on what goes into the tax levy, we'll talk about the current levy request. The request is $28.6 million and is based on a 5% increase for CPI and $27.8 million of new construction and no balloon levy. This represents a 7.08% increase over last year's extension. Based on the estimates, I expect the extension to be finalized closer to $28.5 million request based on the 4% EAV increase and the $27.8 million in new construction. As we break down the calculation a little further, we have the prior year extension, one of the knowns, multiplied by the CPI, another known, which is maxed out at 5%, so which equals the $1.3 million. Next, we can calculate the new property or new construction. We take the estimated new construction of $27.8 million times the limiting rate, which is 1.9976. Just with the new construction, the district would receive an additional $556,000 over last year's levy. As agreed upon by all taxing bodies in West Chicago, tax abatements will be issued for most of the new construction built into Page Technology Center. For purposes of the tax levy, we still request the full amount for the new construction, but for the actual receipts, the tax abatements will reduce the extension by about $500,000. Putting this all together, we come up with $28.6 million as the expected 2022 extension. Again, for the actual receipts, I expect this to be closer to $28.5 million. The estimated impact to taxpayers for this extension is dependent on the EAV for each taxpayer's property and the overall EAV in District 94's boundaries and the tax rate. A taxpayer with a home value of $275,000 and a District 94's current tax rate would see an increase of about $35 per year, and that's just for the District 94's portion of the tax bill. Some of the reasons for this levy request includes that ESSER funding will end after FY24, and we have many salaries, stipends, and SEL supports for students that are paid by ESSER funding. We have over $19 million in facility needs as noted in our recent facility plan, and this does not include any additional special projects that the district may need in the future. Also, I suspect that we'll be moving to Tier 2 for evidence-based funding in the next couple of years, which will dramatically reduce our annual increase to EBF. Additionally, at some point, CPPRT will come back down to a normal level, and these are just a few of the reasons for that request. This is the calculation page for that levy, noting the truth in taxation is required. This information will be posted on our website tomorrow under the business office and the proposed 2022 tax levy. And just an FYI, if the board does not want to do a truth in taxation hearing, the result would be a $556,000 less than allowed, which would never be recaptured again, as the next year's extension would be based on the year's extension, on this year's extension. As a truth in taxation hearing is new for most of us, I thought a timetable would be prudent here. The public notice will be posted on November 2nd, which is in the required window of 7 to 14 days, and then before the public hearing, and then we'll have that public hearing at the November 15th board meeting. Any questions?
Okay, thank you for all that. That brings us to Director of Human Resources report.
First, I want to share some data out of the EEO5 report that our district recently submitted to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. This is also known as the Elementary Secondary Staff Information Report and requires all public school districts with 100 or more employees to submit demographic workforce data every 2 years. Just looking at the two most recent reports we've submitted, there are a couple of interesting takeaways that I want to share. The District 94 staff grew from 250 regular employees in 2020 to 267 in 2022. In terms of employees that identify as Hispanic or Latino, Black or African American, or Asian rather than identifying as white, there was a shift from 25% to 33% of our new hires from 2020 to 2022. When we look at just the certified new hires, in this most recent class, 18% identify as teachers of color. And then when we look at the shift in our overall staff, we see the percentage of employees of color grow from 19% to 23% from 2020 to 2022. Although comparing 2 years of data does not necessarily show a trend, it does give us a snapshot of the shift in our workforce over the past 2 years. We still have work to do to better reflect the demographics of our student population in our staff, but it is certainly encouraging to see movement toward a more diverse workforce. In other news, registration for the annual wellness screening and flu shot clinic on Friday, November 4th is well underway. Staff participation in the biometric screening is a major component of receiving the wellness incentive rebate from the EBC, which is paid in full for the health insurance rebate all staff members are receiving this year, as well as staff wellness activities that are planned by the Wellness Committee. We are on pace to hit at least 50% participation again this year. Next, a couple of items that the board should know are in the works. This school year, Community High School District 94 will be under a compliance review with the ROE. This is a standard audit that used to occur on a 5-year basis and is now moved to every 4 years. Dr. Cheng and I recently attended an orientation to the process with the DuPage Regional Superintendent, where procedures, expectations, scheduling, and the electronic platform were discussed. We are now just in the initial stages. However, we will have the vast majority of the process completed by March 1st, 2023, and an on-site visit from the ROE to review the physical materials on March 15th of 2023. I also wanted the board to be aware that I'm exploring an updated format for the personnel report beginning with the November board meeting. My goal here is really twofold. I want to modernize the document and make sure that it communicates the information in a consistent fashion from month to month. On the front end, I also want to streamline the workflow and efficiency within the HR office. So I'll look forward to sharing that with you next month. Finally, in tonight's packet, the board has a recommendation for the addition of 2 coaching stipends for assistant girls wrestling and assistant boys volleyball. The Appendix B committee unanimously supports this recommendation and hopes that the addition of these positions will help realize the district's goal of increasing participation in sports and activities to pre-pandemic levels. The 2 stipends will have an estimated total cost of $8,050. And this concludes my report.
Thank you for that. Principal's report.
Thank you. Hard to believe, but since our last regular meeting of the Board of Education, we hosted a very successful homecoming week with high turnout for all planned events and activities. And believe it or not, preparations are already underway for homecoming 2023. I want to mention the security audit that we spoke of at the Committee of the Whole meeting 2 weeks ago. We did receive the results from the security audit late yesterday afternoon. As you may remember, they completed 2 days of site visits 2 weeks ago. The report is comprehensive, and we are just now working through the results, which we will share with the board at upcoming meetings. As one reminder, I do want to make sure I set the expectations that we won't be able to make public all of the results, as that in itself could compromise safety, and some of those findings will be things that we want to keep internal. We will use those findings to guide future actions and investments by the district. I also want to update the district on our Den Time initiative this year. The Student Support Initiative is off to a great start. The Den structure is going extremely well. The first quarter focused heavily on getting to know you activities, as well as school spirit and school connectedness. Each grade level has begun focusing more now in the areas of executive functioning, social emotional awareness, and other topics planned by the committee over the past 3 years as we've been developing this program. I do want to acknowledge that the incredible teacher leaders that have stepped up are really what make this program run on a day-to-day basis. And I also really want to thank our assistant principals, Mrs. Howard and Mr. Martino, who have been tasked with leading the implementation phase of the Student Support Initiative. Starting November 1st, we will have presentations during Den Time for students on school safety and how to report school safety concerns of any nature. These lessons are going to run for the first 2.5 weeks of November, and we will also look to follow these student meetings up through our parent engagement series. We are still working on an exact date for that event, but we will communicate it to the community soon. In addition to DENS, I also want to update the board on the academic support programs that we have added this school year. The academic support side of DEN Time continues to grow and expand with more and more and more students each week. It's been really positive. I'm very pleased with how this new support is becoming an embedded part of the school day. After-school tutoring and activity buses have been running since Labor Day, and we continue to have consistent and steady attendance utilizing both of these programs. Additionally, I want to update the board on the core lab support that we added this year as well. We continue to add students to that program as we identify those who are struggling academically in the graduation required courses. As you remember, this is a very intensive Tier 2 support the board approved last year. We are working right now on identifying new students for second semester and reviewing any needed changes for the 23-24 school year. I also want you to know I'll be bringing a more comprehensive update about DEN Time before the first semester concludes, and I'll update the board on the other initiatives as well as we have end of the semester data when we get into the second half of the school year. One perspective about the DENs that we will be systematically gathering is student input. Earlier today, I sent out a nominating form to all DEN teachers to nominate one student from each DEN to serve on what we're calling the Principals Advisory Committee. This will be a way for us to gather student voice and input, not just on DEN Time and the Student Support Initiative, but on a variety of other topics throughout the school year. The groups will meet once per quarter for the remainder of the year. Once we have nominees selected and representatives, I look forward to updating the board on how those meetings go. I do want to say, I'm mentioning all of these programs to really note that the board has invested very heavily in 3 key areas this year: school safety, social emotional well-being of our students, and Tier 2 academic supports. And I really want you to know that the investments are not only incredibly appreciated, but they're off to great starts. I really couldn't be happier. I am certain that as the year goes on, we'll make adjustments, we'll make changes, we're going to learn as we go. But how we've started so far, I couldn't be happier. The leadership team and the entire staff are working incredibly hard to ensure that the processes for these new changes and the changes it creates for our school are going well, and that we're working through them very well. And I appreciate all the hard work everyone is doing. Looking ahead, I do want to note that we have a busy week next week. Not only do school report cards go public on October 27th, but we also have our first PTAC meeting. I look forward to updating the board in future meetings about the data and our summative designation on our report card after it becomes public information. As for the PTAC meeting, again, that will be next week. And as a reminder, it is open to the public to observe, and it is live streamed as well. In the world of student activities, one of our activity traditions that is coming back now that we are more post-pandemic is our annual We Go Spooky event, which is 1 week from tonight. As you remember, this is a Halloween-themed evening from 4:30 to 6 p.m. for kindergarten through 5th graders in our community, and we have several of our clubs participating with a different station ranging from face painting, crafts, and games here on campus for kids. And our music department is also off to a great start. We had a choir concert last week, a marching band showcase last night, and an orchestra concert going on as we speak. Music program is in great shape, and I'm also happy to report that we are in the midst of record sign-up for the Disney trip that the Board of Education approved earlier this school year that will take place in March. Athletics, girls tennis wrapped up their season with 3 all-conference athletes and a 4th place finish in conference. Boys golf also finished in 4th place in the conference and had 2 golfers in the top 10. And at the conference tournament, girls golf finished in 4th place at the conference tournament. Boys soccer, boys and girls cross country start regional competition this week, followed by volleyball and swim in the weeks to come. And really wishing them all good luck in the postseason. And let you know too that our winter season is fast approaching, and the registrations have already picked up for the winter athletes. And as always, you do have the attendance and discipline data in your packets. One quick comment on the discipline data I do want to give the board. You will notice as you look at the year-over-year data, when you look at the data from the 2020-21 school year, at this time of year, there was 0 discipline infractions because no one was here. We were fully in remote learning at that time. And as you also look at the discipline data for the 22 school year, you'll see a significant difference in terms of the amount, especially of truancies and tardies. Part of that is we were welcoming many of our students back to school for the first time in a year or more, and we were working on individual case-by-case bases, trying to get kids supported back into the learning environment before we really started to implement the disciplinary or punitive measures of our attendance procedures.
So how would you compare current to prior to COVID as far as discipline? Are we tracking what we normally would be, or are we seeing numbers greater than what we typically would have seen?
I can go back and pull the 1920 data, but pretty similar to what we typically see. And for some of the more serious disciplinary infractions, much less, as you will note, than what you would see prior to COVID.
Well, I think we're all enthusiastic about the student support initiative and hoping to find great things. Do we have metrics and baselines established so that more than just anecdotal stories of success, we know that we're achieving the things that we were hoping to when we set this program into motion?
Yeah, we do. And I think Mr. Nagel, you did a great job of asking this question when we were in the discussion and approval phase for this initiative in the year past. One, we are continuing to use the Panorama tool that the board approved about a year and a half ago. So that grabs baseline data across the student body on social emotional criteria and various questions. We implemented that survey at the beginning of the year, and again, using the first survey comparing to post survey is going to be one of the areas we look at. Another one is we're going to be looking at things like attendance, grades, and the other outcomes of school that we know improve when we see social emotional well-being of students improve as well. But we're also going to be gathering survey data from staff in November, the staff who are really the linchpin to conducting this entire program, as well as getting that feedback from students as well too.
Is there some information you can provide the board so that we sort of have an idea of what we're going to be doing and measuring, so that if people in the community are asking about it, we have some ability to give some answers?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we can do that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments regarding the principal's report? All right, thank you for your report. That brings us to committee and representative reports. Do we have any update from SACID?
Nothing from SACID.
All right, that brings us to future dates. We have a committee of the whole meeting on November 1st, a regular Board of Education meeting on November 15th, another committee of the whole on December 6th, and another regular Board of Education meeting on December 20th. And that brings us to open comment from board members.
Hope the heat's on.
Pardon me?
Hope the heat's on.
This was a test. Make sure we're ready for the real winter. This was test winter. All right, any future issues that we'd want to see pursued on agendas? Hearing none, that brings us to consent agenda. Does anyone wish to remove any item from the consent agenda for separate action?
The October 11th special board meeting minutes.
All right, we will pull that one. Anything else? All right, that brings us to consent agenda. So we're looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes approval of minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting on September 20th, the closed session Board of Education meeting September 20th, the special Board of Education meeting September 27th, the closed special board meeting minutes from September 27th, the committee of the whole meeting from minutes from October 4th, the closed session committee of the whole meeting from October 4th, the closed session, we're skipping the 11th, or I'll skip the entire 11th. Also approval of financials, which includes approving current expenditures, impressed fund statement, treasurer's report, statement of position / financial report, statement of revenue / expenditures year-to-date ending September 30th, 2022, 3-year budget / actual report, grant reports, petty cash fund report, student activity account fund balance, new vendors monthly report, quarterly financial reports, board conference travel expenses, and also the personnel report as presented.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Sake,
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer,
Aye.
Ms. DeRamus,
Aye.
Ms. Munoz,
Aye.
Mr. Nagel.
Aye.
All right, that brings us to the item that was removed from the consent agenda. Recommended motion would be to approve the minutes from the special Board of Education meeting on October 11th and the closed session special Board of Education meeting on October 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Zuniga,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer,
Aye.
Ms. DeRamus,
Abstain.
Munoz,
Aye.
Mr. Nagel,
Aye.
Mr. Sake.
Aye.
Okay. There being no old business, that brings us to new business, separation of employment. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the following: the resignation of Torino Brooks, custodian, Building Operations Division, and the retirement of Deborah Reynolds, Program Assistant, Student Services Division.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. DeRamus,
Aye.
Ms. Munoz,
Aye.
Mr. Nagel,
Aye.
Mr. Sake,
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer.
Aye.
That brings us to Director of Business Services contract. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the contract as presented in the packet.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Munoz,
Aye.
Mr. Nagel,
Aye.
Mr. Sake,
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer,
Aye.
Ms. DeRamus,
Aye.
That brings us to principal contract. The recommended motion is the Board of Education approve the contract as presented in the packet.
Moved.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Nagel,
Aye.
Mr. Sake,
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer,
Aye.
Ms. DeRamus,
Aye.
Ms. Munoz,
Aye.
That brings us to Assistant Principal for Administrative Services contract. The recommended motion is the Board of Education approve the contract as presented in the packet.
So moved.
So moved.
We need a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Sake,
Aye.
Zuniga,
Based on what we talked about in closed session, no.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer,
Aye.
Ms. DeRamus,
Aye.
Ms. Munoz,
For concerns discussed during closed session, no.
Mr. Nagel,
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to Appendix B recommendations. The recommended motion is the Board of Education approve the Appendix B recommendation as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Zuniga,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer,
Aye.
Ms. DeRamus,
Aye.
Ms. Munoz,
Aye.
Mr. Nagel,
Aye.
Mr. Sake,
Aye.
New modified courses for school year 2023 to 2024. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the course proposals as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer,
Aye.
Ms. DeRamus,
Aye.
Ms. Munoz,
Aye.
Mr. Nagel,
Aye.
Mr. Sake,
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga,
Aye.
And finally, Quest Food Management Services Amendment. Recommended motion is that the Board of Education approve the amendment to the Food Service Management Agreement as presented.
So moved.
So moved.
Somebody claim a second? Okay. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Ms. Casey Mayer.
Aye.
Ms. Doremus.
Aye.
Ms. Munoz.
Aye.
Mr. Nagel.
Aye.
Mr. Sake.
Aye.
Mr. Zuniga.
Aye.
Mr. Brown.
Aye. All right, that concludes our regular business, and for a refreshing change of pace, there is no need to